Hey, how is everybody? Welcome today to my live, and I'm excited to be here because I love hummus, and hummus is such a great way for us to get tons of fiber and tons of health benefits from the beans and lots of flavor, and it kind of satisfies that snackiness that we get, and it makes it so that it's really fun and easy to snack. So let's get right to it. Hummus is one of the easiest recipes you can make. It's so easy. You can make it in the blender. You can make it in a food processor. I've got my food processor right here. And we're going to use the food processor because I like mine just a little bit chunkier at times. This one I like more chunky. There are some hummuses I want to be super smooth. Today we're going to make this spicy roasted pepper hummus a little bit chunkier, so I use my food processor. But you can also just mash it up in a bowl and use the back of a fork. Hummus is so easy, and it's been around for ages. And you can create so many fabulous different recipes. In fact, one of my favorite ones that I created last year was I was really craving chocolate, but I didn't want to have something processed. And so I decided to make a chocolate hummus so that I could get that great plant-based protein, dates for sweetening. Anyway, I made this fabulous chocolate hummus, and it was really good. One of these days we'll do that one together, but today I wanted to show you how you can create a fabulous, flavorful hummus that is so nourishing to your body. And again, it's going to help you stay aligned with what your body is asking for, what it needs. You know, our bodies truly need nourishing foods in order for them to stay healthy, and in order for them to stay whole, so that we can fight the risk of heart disease and diabetes and strokes and all of those things that are so prevalent in our lives today, all around us, our whole families. I talked about that on Tuesday. Our families are obese and have all these chronic diseases, and what we need to do is focus on taking step by step those things that we can do to nourish our lives, to keep our bodies whole. Okay, so just avoiding bad foods like processed oils is a great first step, right? But increasing the health benefits in our foods like vegetables, nuts and seeds, and beans daily in our diet is going to help us reduce significantly our risks of diabetes, heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure, inflammatory diseases, autoimmune diseases. It truly is nourishing to our body when we add whole foods. So let's talk about beans. Beans are the staple of hummus, and they are rich in fiber. They're rich in phytonutrients. They actually have something really interesting called resistant starch. I don't know if you've ever heard of it before, but resistant starch is not actually a starch, but it's kind of a funny name, but it's actually another type of fiber. And beans, a can of beans, actually has a significant amount of resistant starch. I think it's about 30%. And so when you look at the label and you see that it says 130 calories per serving, so a half a cup of these chickpeas is 130 calories, but 30% of that is resistant starch. So resistant starch is a fiber that is not digested into the body. It's calories that do not get absorbed. They go right through you, just like other fibers do, but resistant starch even more so. So you can actually look at this 130 calories and take 30% off of that. And that reduces the amount of calories that you're actually getting in the beans. That's one thing that's amazing about beans. Another little known fact about beans is that, especially for diabetics, they are so important for diabetics. Diabetics should be eating these every single day. What the beans do is it actually helps to extract the blood sugar, the glucose from our blood, okay? So if you have diabetes, if you have prediabetes, if you are insulin resistant, if you are even obese, your body, the more fat that our body contains, the harder it is for our bodies, the insulin in our body, to remove the sugar from our blood. And so when we eat beans, they have a unique process that actually helps our bodies to keep the blood sugar lower and for longer. So there's no spike in blood sugar, and we digest those sugars and those carbohydrates at a more steady, even rate. And so that is much healthier for our insulin levels and for our all over health. It also has an incredible effect of which not other foods do. It actually does this for the next meal. I think it's called the second meal effect. So even if you ate beans, let's say for lunch, and then you had some carbohydrates at dinner, whether it's from vegetables or from more fiber-filled carbohydrates like grains or starchy vegetables, squashes, things like that. When you eat beans, the subsequent meal, that same effect is still happening. You're still getting that blood glucose effect of it pulling that blood glucose out, the glucose out of the blood. Anyway, let's get to the recipe, shall we? All right, enough talk. Super, super easy. We're gonna get this done. 1, 2, 3. All right, so the first thing we're going to add is some chickpeas. Now, I have canned chickpeas. I opened it up because I was going to use it, and then I remembered that I had set aside some chickpeas last night. Canned chickpeas are just fine. They tend to be a little bit harder. They sometimes are not cooked quite as long as if you were to cook them yourself at home. So whether you use a pressure cooker or whether you put it in a crock pot. So this has been going all night because I wanted this hummus to be creamy. I want the beans to be well cooked. And so you can see, I don't know if you can see, I don't want to spill it, but so here, I should get a spoon out. But these beans are super soft. I always add, here I'll show you, I should have gotten the package out. I always add some Pacific kombu. So this is a sea vegetable, seaweed. It works really well with beans. So if you have trouble with beans, if sometimes beans are a little bit hard for you to digest, maybe you get bloated, a little bit gassy, adding just a little bit of the Pacific kombu, it comes in a sheet, and if you just break off about 2 inches and then just break it into tiny little pieces and then cook it with the beans, it actually helps the digestive process, and it helps you to be able to digest them easier. It also adds just a minute amount of salt. That's not going to hurt our recipe at all, so that's awesome. Okay, so I've got my beans, and we want 3 cups of beans. And I'm gonna drain off most of the liquid. We're gonna add a little bit of liquid later, but we're going to drain off most of the liquid. So that's 1. Now I put in my crock pot here last night. It was about 10 o'clock at night, right before I went to bed. And I put in 1 cup of beans that I had sorted through and rinsed. And then I put in about 3.5 cups of water, and I put that in my little crock pot here, and then I just set it on go. It's automatically on a low setting, and so it's just been going. It's been going for, and these are a little bit older beans. I've had them for a couple of years, so they need a little bit longer to cook. So this is gonna give me almost exactly 3 cups of cooked beans. So let's see, it is 1 o'clock, so it's been about 15 hours that it was in the crock pot. Normally when I cook beans in a crock pot, they only take maybe 5 or 6 hours. So, but like I said, I wanted these to be super soft, and they are. So, all right, I'm trying to keep I'm not just draining it in the sink because I'm trying to keep the liquid. So I don't know if you've heard of aquafaba, but that's the water that the beans cook in. So this aquafaba is actually really beneficial, not necessarily nutritionally wise, but it thickens as it cools, and then you can actually use it almost like you would egg whites, and you can whip it up. And I've made omelets with it, and I've used it to make like pancake or waffle batter fluffy. So it's lots of fun. So, okay, let me set that aside for later. And we're gonna add just a little bit of these canned beans because I didn't quite have 3 cups. All right, what's next? So next we're gonna add our garlic cloves. So now I'm gonna go to the oven, and I have been roasting the red peppers. I also did an orange pepper and the garlic. Oh, they smell so good. Oh, don't you love that smell? Have you ever roasted? If you've ever roasted peppers before, make sure you comment about what you think of roasted peppers, because if you've ever smelt them or put them on the grill when you're grilling other vegetables and stuff, oh, it smells so good. It's so different than the raw pepper. All right, so any of these skins on the peppers that are a little bit blackened, I just peel that off. It's super easy. These are a bit hot, so I'm gonna be careful. Use my spoon. But if there's any blackened parts, I'm gonna take those off. And I told you I was doing garlic, but right now I'm just gonna do the peppers. Okay, since I just took them out of the oven. So you can see I have 2 red peppers and an orange pepper. And we're just going to, I'm not worried too much about taking all the skin off like you would with a jalapeno or a poblano pepper or something like that. I'm just gonna take off a little bit of the blackened part. I don't know if you know this, but blackening a pepper or blackening foods, when you char grill something, when you blacken it, it creates a compound called an acrylamide. And acrylamides are actually been proven to be cancer causing. And so go ahead and grill, go ahead and roast things, but take the black parts off, because that blackened part is starting to form an acrylamide, and we don't want that. So it still has the fabulous flavors of roasting or grilling and so forth, but we're taking off as much of that blackening part as we can. I love how when we cook food in different ways that you bring out the flavor of the foods in different ways. So if I were to steam these, or if I were to just eat them raw, they would have a totally different flavor. It's really fun to experiment and use different cooking methods. All right, I'm just gonna set that aside, and I'll show you my garlics. Okay, so these are, I can easily handle these now. So I roast them with the papers on them. I've shown that before. And you just want them to be a little bit squishy, and it really just gives them a fabulous mild flavor. If you really love the flavor of garlic, go ahead and throw a raw one in here. It's not gonna hurt anything at all. And it will certainly pump up the garlic flavor. So we're going to add, just peeling off this paper. Whoops, don't put the paper in there. So I'm using 4 garlic cloves, and they're just like a medium, they're not super large and not super small, just a medium-sized garlic clove. All right, there we go. All right, next thing is lemon juice. So we're going to add, now a lot of times I have a ton of lemons in there, but today I'm just showing you how quick and easy this is. So today we're going to just use this real lemon juice, but you certainly can take a real lemon. This is about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice is about the same as using 1 whole fresh lemon. It's about the same. All right, there's our lemon juice. Now we're gonna give it a little bit more zing, because remember, this is a spicy hummus. We're gonna give it just a little more zing, and it also helps because we're not adding salt. So by adding some apple cider vinegar, we are gonna add some zing. Ooh, I didn't shake it. Real apple cider vinegar has some great sediments at the bottom, and you wanna make sure you get that in it. So make sure you give that a good shake. Okay, now we'll put 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. Alrighty. And that's gonna really help give it some zing. All right. Oh, I was gonna show you. So I have this jar of the roasted red peppers. I totally use this all the time. If I don't have time to roast peppers, if I don't have any peppers to roast, I always keep a couple of these jars on hand, because if I want to make this recipe real fast and just throw together a hummus, this is so super easy. I love these jars. The only thing with these is they do have a little bit more sodium in them. And so it's 120 milligrams for only 1.5 tablespoons of chopped. That's quite a bit of sodium. When you realize that I just put 3 whole peppers in, so that means that's like probably half the jar. So that's a lot of sodium. You might want to rinse them a little bit, but then you kind of lose some of that fabulous roasted red pepper flavor. So just be cautious of the sodium. If you have high blood pressure, if you have been warned about having excess sodium, if you get edema in your legs, or have swelling, be sure to be careful of adding too much sodium. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna add is our tahini. Now tahini is basically ground up sesame seeds, and I could totally use sesame seeds. I keep these brown sesame seeds, and I sprinkle them on my salads and stuff, so forth. And I have totally made this, especially if I'm going to use it in the blender. Here in the food processor, it's not going to blend it up quite as well, and it's not going to make that smoother texture. So instead of using the whole sesame seeds today, I'm using tahini, and this is just an organic raw tahini. It's not been roasted or anything, and we're going to add a good heaping tablespoon of tahini, and that's going to give it a great authenticity to the hummus. There we go. I wanted about 1.5 tablespoons. All right, we'll just set that aside. So hummus traditionally from the Far East, they always used tahini or they used sesame seeds, and so that's going to give it that great authenticity. But the other thing is it's going to give you those omega-3s. Sesame seeds are the highest food, or has the highest amount of calcium of any food. Did you know that? I just learned that. It is so amazing to me. Calcium, if you need calcium, if you are worried about bone health and getting enough calcium, start adding more sesame seeds. That's fabulous. Okay, so we added that. Now to give it some spice, let's give it some kick. All right, so this is Mrs. Dash, and I love all of her different no salt seasoning mixes, and this is a chipotle. So we are going to add a teaspoon. I think it was a teaspoon. Yep. We're going to add a teaspoon of Mrs. Dash chipotle seasoning. We want to give it that, again, another fabulous roasted pepper flavoring. And then I actually have just chipotle chili. And so I'm going to add, whoops, that one's got a cover on it. I'm going to add about 1/2 teaspoon of, and you can totally, adjust the seasonings to your taste. So after you've blended all up, give it a taste. And if you feel like it needs more spice, it needs something more, start with these no salt seasonings. Start with more chili pepper, and then maybe add some more lemon juice. Those are the things that are really going to boost the flavor. Okay, so the other thing that's going to give us a bit of spice is some ground cumin. So we're going to add a teaspoon of ground cumin. Oh, that smells so good. I'm into smells. If it smells good to me, I know it's going to taste good to me, right? All right, the last thing we're going to add, last 2 things, is I'm going to add an entire can of diced peppers. These are diced green chili peppers. And this is just a mild, you can add the hot, you can add whatever one you want, but this will make it, again, give it that fun spice instead of just your traditional roasted red pepper hummus. All right, now, fresh pepper, we're just gonna add as much as we think we're gonna like. I love pepper and hummus. That was a lot, and that's gonna be good. All right, move this out of the way, and let's get it going. Now, you notice that I didn't add any other liquids besides the lemon juice and the apple cider vinegar, but I do have some of the liquid from the can of the aquafaba, and I also have some of the liquid from my slow cooker. All right, and so if this doesn't feel like it's smooth enough, I'll just add a little more liquid. I gotta get rid of this funky thing on my screen here so I can see. Okay, let's go. All right, right now, it's got a great chunkiness to it. I mean, what was that, 10 seconds? Oh my goodness, I gotta show this to you. Can you see how chunky it is? That is a great chunkiness. And I have been to Indian restaurants and different restaurants where they serve it to you just like this, with its chunkiness. I prefer to have it just a little bit smoother than this, but for this recipe, I did want it a little chunkier, which is why we're using the processor. It really has quite a bit of liquid in it. It's nice and it's moving really well. So I really don't want to add any more liquid to it right now. I'm just gonna do a little bit more. Okay, let's taste it. See how we did. Oh yeah. Oh, those spices are coming through great. That is definitely spicy enough. I love that chipotle with it. The warmth, right now it's warm because it's the warm peppers that were in the oven and my chickpeas were warm. But this is gonna be just as good cold. I don't think it needs anything. I don't want to add any more lemon juice or apple cider vinegar. I think it would overpower it. It's perfect right now. Oh wow, I think I need to cut up some cucumbers. Would be perfect with this because the spiciness of, it's really got a great spice. So the spiciness of the hummus is coming through beautifully, but the coolness of the cucumber is gonna be really tasty. That is so perfect. All right, I'm gonna put it in a container. Let's put it in a bowl. And I'm gonna have this with my lunch today. There we go. Oh, it's got just a little bit of chunkiness to it. Like I said, you totally could do this in a blender and it would be super smooth in a blender. And then it has a totally different feel to it, but the flavors will come out beautifully the more you blend it. And the more this sits in the fridge, the longer it sits, the flavors will just blend and it'll just become better and better every day. I don't know if this will last more than about 2 or 3 days because my husband loves this. Another thing my husband loves to add, especially to this, is the sriracha sauce. And so if you really want some spice, then he just sprinkles just a little bit right on the edge. Oh, it's not coming out. Anyway, sprinkle a little bit on there and then he dips it with the veggies and it's super, super good. This is awesome with carrot chips and with cucumbers. Anyway, enjoy. I hope you have a great and nourishing day today and the rest of the week. I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday when I have my mindset moment at 1 o'clock Pacific time on Tuesdays, and then another great recipe for nourishing our lives and our bodies next Thursday at 1 o'clock. Have an awesome day. Thank you so much for being here and watching. And as always, if you try it, I'd love to hear your comments. Talk to you later.